Hi everyone. I don't have many pet peeves when it comes to calligraphy with a brush pen, but I tell you, there is one thing that kind of is, I don't know, annoying that I see all the time. I'm just using some dotted paper. I have a few different kinds of brush pens. So in my line, Kelly Creates, there's a number of different sizes of brush tips. But I also have some Mildliner Brush Pens from Zebra, and I have an older Tombow pen that here, a couple of Dream pens, and a Kelly Creates jewel pen. Anyway, one of my biggest pet peeves, and like I said, I'm pretty relaxed about calligraphy, is the pens. People are blaming the pens instead of themselves when they're lettering. So what do I mean by this? I mean that really every pen tip, not just within my own line of brush pens, but between brands, among brands, there are different ways that the brush tips respond. So you can't really expect to have them behave all exactly the same way and write with them all exactly the same way. Now, of course, I'm always going to hold the pen high on the barrel like this, no matter what kind of pen it is. So here's my Dream pen in the petal large brush. There's two tips. I'm going to hold it up here. And even if I flip to the other side, which is smaller, I'm still going to hold it high on the barrel. So that is not going to change. What I am going to change is kind of a slight modification as to how I form my strokes. So for example, this medium brush pen in my line is beloved by me and most people who use it. And so, but the trick is, at first you think, oh, it's great. It can make, has nice flex. I can get thin strokes and thick strokes. They're not super thick because the tip isn't that thick, very flexible. But when you use this medium brush pen and you are doing your ovals, you can have an issue like this. Because of this tip's flexibility and the way it operates, I have to change the way I do my ovals. So instead of just going up and down like I usually would, this transition is going to be a little bit, how can I say it, jagged. So when I use my medium brush pen, I still have to make the transition. I'm still holding it the same way, but when I work on my ovals, I'm going to slowly push into them. So, and they might be a little bit rounder, so I do not get that jagged edge or transition at the top. All right, so modifying the way you use a brush pen, even within my own line, is really important. Okay, so let's go into this one. This is the large tip. So same pen, large tip. Look at the difference. Huge difference. Actually, I think this one is soft. This tip is really soft. But because it's so much larger, I am now going to change how I write with it. So I will write bigger. And that is a thin upstroke on this large brush pen because it's super soft. And I'm going to push more to get a thick downstroke. So I'm going to treat this brush tip differently than I would the medium pen. The only way you're going to become familiar with your pens is by picking up any brand of pen and working on your basic strokes. So let's do the oval. And this one I find I can push into pretty aggressively and have a nice transition at the top of the oval. But look how thick this upstroke is. That's totally fine as long as you see the difference between thick and thin. If you don't like this, maybe this pen isn't for you. A similar tip to this one that's just as large is my Dream pen, but it is smaller. So let's take this blue one. You can see the tip there. And again, I will go through my basic strokes and figure out how this pen operates. I'll do my up and down strokes. Of course, you know, underturns and overturns are important. But for me, the whole kind of what is revealed on how a brush pen works is the oval. You can see this one is super soft, so I will adjust that. I still use soft pens to write. And I will come up, but this one's really frayed. And you can still practice with the frayed brush pen. That's totally fine. Another example of a large brush tip pen. Let's take a look at this Tombow pen. Again, look at that super big tip. This super big tip, people don't realize, it's flexible. You can press the whole side of the tip down on the paper and get that thick stroke, which means you are again going to write bigger than smaller. Now, do you realistically write that big? It's probably physically challenging for the size of your hand to write that big. For me, I can do it, but not for an extended period of time. So I will not press as hard and still have, you can see this pen is a little bit frayed, doesn't matter, and not have as much trouble with it. But I am adjusting how I use this pen slightly. I'm modifying my movements of my fingers. So let's try an oval. And for this large brush tip to work, I actually do extend my oval on this waistline and baseline further than I would a smaller brush tip. So I'm going to push along up here more and release and come up. Oops, that oval's really off. Or you can push a little less and create a thinner line on the downstroke like that. If my pen is really soft though, I actually try to make my downstrokes thicker to accommodate that thinner upstroke so I can see the difference. If you don't, then it's going to look the same. It's too similar. Okay, and let's take a look at another pen. This is a Zebra Mildliner pen. And let's try, I like this color. Look at the size of this brush tip. And let's figure out how it behaves. You're going to figure out how it behaves by, you know what I'm going to say, by doing your up and down strokes. Now look how big this brush tip is, but I'm not pressing that hard and I'm getting a nice thick line. These are brand new, so they're very stiff. When you get a new pen, it will usually behave differently than when you have an older pen or you use it a lot. Okay, let's see how thick we can get. Look at that. And it bounces back pretty well. Let's try our overturn, our oval. And I can write quite nicely with this pen by not pressing too hard. I still have a thin line. Remember, your upstrokes will be thinner with a newer pen, always. There we go. And so I don't have to adjust too much entering into this transition right there, and it seems to write quite nicely. The last pen, did I say last time? Is the Kelly Crates Jewel Pen, another large tip pen, similar to the Dream Pen, but this pen is super juicy and soft. So once again, I'm going to adjust how I write with it. I can write really quite large. Now it's metallic, so I don't usually practice with this because the ink is super wet. So you can see the wetness. And if you do have the jewel pens, I don't recommend that you practice with them. Save them for a project on your black paper that is, you know, quite special, because it is a nice pen. I personally like to save this for my projects. Practicing with it, I don't see the point. You can practice with other large brush tip pens. The metallic pens, like I said, I just save for something special. But you know what? You only live once, so you could use it. So because this pen is super soft, my entrance to the oval is a little bit trickier. I have to slowly move into it. And my upstroke isn't as thin, unless the pen is brand new, remember that. But because this pen is so soft, I have to be quite careful and slow when I enter and exit these transitions, because it's soft and I will not get a nice curve at the top and bottom if I rush it, and because it is so soft. All right, so I know you probably don't want to hear this, but often when we're using different brush pens, it's not really the pen's problem if it doesn't look great or if it's not up to our expectations. Every brush pen I pick up, I test it out, I learn how it flexes, I learn how it behaves, how responsive it is, and then I am able to use it with some success, or hopefully with a lot of success. So I hope you are able to pick up some pens maybe and not just dismiss them as, oh, these don't work very well, and give them another try and adjust the way you're using them. And then you'll just have more wonderful brush pens to use when you're lettering. Thanks for watching.